Good morning, it's Friday the 18th of July, so another weekly update for you from a bit of an overcast this morning, and as you can see behind me, starting to bake out a little bit and looks very, very, very lynxy. But touch wood, rain dance at the ready. We're going to get some rain this weekend, thunderstorms perhaps, and then into early part of next week. So we'll see what comes of that. As much needed, but don't worry about things we can't control. So we continue on. So in terms of course setups this week, we've slightly adapted what we'd usually do on a usual routine of greens, where we cut 7 days and then roll 4 days a week. They're normally Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. We've just changed and adapted that due to we put a granular fertiliser on greens, which we usually do every a light rate, 20 grams a square metre, which is quite a light rate. We just do that every 6 to 8 weeks as is needed. I think I've talked about it in the past with granular fertilizers. Little and often is far better than putting a heavy amount down and then baling hay off it for the next and getting lots of growth, and it's not great. So just little and often is what we feel works very well for us and what we do. So that went out on Tuesday. In front of what looked like a little bit of drizzle and rain, 3 mil of drizzle and rain on Tuesday night, which we were supposed to get, but we didn't get that. So we then had to go to the automated irrigation system to really try and wash in and break down the fertilizer, because the quicker we break all that down, the quicker we can get back to normal routine of cutting. So what we did to adapt was we cut on Wednesday, but just cut on a Wednesday with boxes off, because we don't want to pick that fertilizer back up. We left the rollers off just because we don't want to collect it all up on those rollers. So, and then again we went heavy again with the watering again Wednesday night as it started to break down. So we cut and rolled again, boxes off, cut Thursday, but then we did manage to get a roll out there without affecting. Most of the fertilizer pretty much disappeared, and then we did the same again on Friday. This morning we've done the same again. So boxes off and rolled again for performance, but again we just don't want to, any of that little bit of fertilizer that's hanging around, we don't want to be picking up with the boxes and taking away from the plant and the soil. So just to leave it out there. Hopefully the guys are doing a good job clearing up, but it will leave things a bit messier because they're not going in the catches and things like that. So that's just how we've adapted and worked around the granular fertilizer going out this week, just to make sure we're just trying to combine that, keeping the golf course performing well with cutting and rolling, but not trying to pick up the fertilizer or take it away from after we've applied it. And then tomorrow is Captain's Day, and there's a big double shotgun as well. I think the first shotgun is 8:15, so very early in the morning. So we're very happy with whether the greens are out in terms of fertilizer. It seems very, very fully broken down now. And we'll put the boxes back on tomorrow because we're not going to be picking up any fertilizer. So we'll cut tomorrow morning. We're going to cut tomorrow morning, move markers, and service the bunkers. We'd normally roll on a Sunday, but we haven't got time to do the cutting and the rolling with the 8:15 shotgun that we've got on. So just be a cut tomorrow. That is slightly different and away from the normal routine that we would do and perform. That's the reason why. As I said, a very early shotgun. But I hope everyone has a really good day. It looks like there's a lot of people, and I hope Scott has a brilliant day. So I hope everyone enjoys it. So outside of the greens, we also put a granular fertilizer on the tees, just because they were due as well. And then we've got this rain that's coming in over the weekend. That hopefully should wash it all in. But we've cut tees twice this week, as we've still got the irrigation running on those, and they're still relatively green compared to areas that aren't irrigated. So again, we did boxes off because we don't want to be picking that fertilizer up. So boxes off, bit more swishing to tidy up, and then the rain over the weekend / early part of next week will help break down and wash all that fertilizer in. This week we completed servicing over the practice nets. So there was a baffle net which had a hole in, that's been replaced, and then all the posts have had a lick of paint to smarten those up, neaten those up, and give them a good tidy up. Something else we're working on with a lack of cutting throughout the golf course is to have a tidy up of the yard. A good while ago, we moved all of our yard materials out opposite the private buggies and cleared all this area. I've done this in a couple of videos where we took all the soil, native soil that was out of here, and replaced it with Type 1. We're now starting to move all those materials back up against the fence on pallets, so it's neat and tidy, and then and there's still some room to store the utility vehicles out, so we're getting that sort of back into our yard, and then clearing all that area behind, just for any future projects which may emerge and develop. So I'm just going to do a feature on bunkers. I've been asked by a member who watches YouTube updates and just asked for, as part of it, it could do a feature on how to rate bunkers. So I'm just going to do a practical demonstration on what we'd like to see, and try to get everyone on the same page of raking bunkers. And then I'm just going to do a bit of a flip side to try and manage expectation of bunkers, and perhaps respond to some of the moans and the gripes that we get about bunkers, and just to manage expectations of people, really, and have that flip side of how bunkers started and what they should be, and sort of how bunkers started and where they've got to, and just have as I said, a bit that counter argument, a bit the flip side of, and just, as I said, just to try and manage people's expectations. So first off, I think it's very important to go through. Quite often there can be plenty of sand in the bunkers, but it gets lost either up the face or up the back edge, because generally these days bunkers are bowl shaped, and you get most of the balls are in the middles of the bunkers. That shot will then get hit, so some ends up going towards that way, and then the worst thing that we can pretty much do is the one-handed rake and pulling all the sand up against the edges. What we'd like to see is a two-handed job, and push the sand back into the bunkers, back into the middles of the bunkers, so because that's where the majority of the shots are played from. When we put sand out in bunkers, we are always, and we're doing the sand levels, we're always testing, try and put around 2 inches of compact sand on the faces and 4 inches in the base. That's generally the guide and how we try to set bunkers up. So yeah, those raking in behind yourselves, it's really important to try and keep that sand in the middles of the bunkers. Otherwise we get to the stage where it goes either up the face or up the back edge, and then the sand level becomes quite low in the middle. So that's just something that you can do when you're playing golf, to keep the sand in the middles of the bunkers. And then also as well, if we could, with bunker rakes, these bunker rakes cost around £50 for these long handles and the wide heads. I try to get the best bunker rakes I can, to try and encourage people to use them, and have the best bunker rakes we can have out here. We use them as greenkeepers too, which I like, because it keeps everything consistent of the way we rake bunkers, and everyone's sort of doing the same, so we've got a relatively consistent surface. We are seeing a lot of these breaking on the handles. We replace so many handles every year, which costs quite a lot of money. And I think it's because they're getting run over with buggies. So if we could ask people just to put the rakes all the way back all the way in the bunkers, please. So whilst I was trying to rehearse what I was going to say in this section, I found a really good article from the USGA, and I'll put a link to this on the Twitter feed, which I put to the YouTube channel as well. But as you can see, it's titled "Maintaining Bunkers for Playability and Not Perfection." Just purely because golf has gone from a stage of this image of old Tom Morris, who was one of the first professional golfers playing on the links of St Andrews, to these highly manicured and perfect sand traps. So by definition, bunkers on golf courses are hazards, and their original intent was to punish an errant shot. And I think we're starting to get away from that a little bit now, if we've got these perfectly manicured sand trap areas where you're guaranteed a really good lie. And I think it's been said and documented that certainly with at the professional level, but good golfers would almost rather miss in bunkers now than they would outside of the bunkers, because it's a harder shot, whether that's an up and down or you've got a lot of different choice of clubs. So it's deciding which shot to play can make it harder. Whereas a well rehearsed bunker shot where you're flopping it out with a club that know that you've done a lot of practice with, and repeating a shot that you've practiced a lot off the golf course, and knowing exactly how much sand you've got and need to take, and all those sort of things, it actually makes it a bit of an easier shot than being outside of the bunker, which I think is a little bit wrong. And this isn't me having a gripe, having a dig, and moaning about bunkers, but I'm saying that they've moved a long way away from their original intent, and it's quite unrealistic, particularly at smaller clubs, with lower resources, to have perfectly maintained bunkers at all times. The amount of sand that we've put in our bunkers over the last 4 years since I've been involved with the club is massive. We must have had 7 or 8 29-ton lorries. Some of that has been to with the reconstruction of bunkers on 3 and 10 and things like that, but we'll put at least 29 to 58 tons worth of sand in the bunkers each year. So as I said, there's plenty of sand in them. But yeah, so I suppose to cut a long topic short, is A, please rake the bunkers. B, make sure we're a two-handed job with the rakes and putting the sand back into the middles of the bunkers. Leave the rakes in the bunkers. And if you do have a bad experience, if you do find yourself in a poor lie or not having as much sand as you think you should, it's important to remember they are bunkers, they are hazards, they are there to punish an errant shot. And I don't believe any golfer has the right to moan that a bunker isn't perfect and it should be like this and it should be like that, and it's not their fault, and it's the greenkeeper's fault, it's the golf course's fault that they're in that bunker, because ultimately they've hit it in that bunker. And if you have to take your medicine from a poor lie, or don't have the perfect amount of sand in that bunker, it's a golfer's fault for being in there, and that's your punishment, and all part of the highs and lows of playing the game of golf. And that is all for this week, folks. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you again next week.